couple of years later, a guy came up to me, my brother's friend, and he said, yo, I want you to train this guy. He's up and coming. His name is John Legend. And I was like, I said, I heard of him. That Ordinary People just came out. Literally just came out. I said, I heard of him. I worked with him. And that was it. He brought John to the gym one day. And that was it. First, I looked at him. I said, I don't want to train this dude. I didn't feel like it. I said, I don't want to train this dude. But within 20 minutes, I was like, yo, this dude is cool as hell. And that was it. Then it took off from there.
Wow. What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now. And yo, we got a dope conversation today with an even more dope individual with an interesting story that's definitely going to spark you to start living your best life. And the brother that we're conversing with today is none other than my frat brother, Malcolm Martin. Now, Malcolm is a co-parent to his 5-year-old daughter who speaks 3 languages. Yes, she's 5 and speaks 3 languages. We're going to dive into that. He's originally from Brooklyn, New York. And but then he ended up going to Knoxville College, where, again, he pledged Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We're representing there. But after college, he went back to New York, worked in the New York City Transit for about 10 years before basically embarking upon this passion for fitness. And he just went all in. He became a certified personal trainer, started working at the hottest gym in New York City. And then ultimately, you can pretty much say the rest is history. But that history that we talk about also includes becoming a celebrity trainer, traveling the world, just doing some amazing stuff. And on top of that, the brother also has a podcast, which is dope, that we're going to jump into as well, entitled Black Fathers Go Further. So without further ado, let's welcome my man, my frat brother, Malcolm Martin, to Black Fathers Now. What's up, brother?
What's up, team?
How you doing, bro?
Hey, man, I'm feeling blessed today. Appreciate the love, having me on your show.
Man, dude, and we have to, before we get started, we have to basically let the world know how this thing came about or how we ended up connecting. Because before you launched Black Fathers Go Further, you shot me an email just randomly because I think you were seeing, Black Fathers Now and all, and you just kind of let me know you're starting a podcast and you'd love some feedback on your show.
Absolutely. I was inspired by your show. I listened to a bunch of podcasts and I heard yours and I got stuck. Mm-hmm. And I got stuck again and again. And you can tell when you get stuck, when you're like working around the house doing something, but you're hearing something in the background and you can't get over what you're hearing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I have to reach out to this brother. I have to find some way without having him think I'm like some nut just trying to find out what's going on. Like, let me just reach out to this brother. And that was it, man. And then
But the funny thing is though, okay, so you reached out to me via, email and all, and we connected. I listened to your stuff and I was like, yo, this is dope. Gave a little bit of feedback. And then when I looked at your stuff on social media, I saw a couple of posts and I saw Omega Psi Phi. I was like, hold up, this guy, he's the bruz. And then what was even crazier, I started seeing some common connections there. I'm like, hold up, this is one of the local bruz here in Knoxville. And this is one. Then I kept going down and I saw something about Knoxville College. I'm like, hold up. So I immediately text one of the bros that lives here in Knoxville. And I'm like, do you know a guy by the name of Malcolm Martin? And one of the guys, Fred Washington, actually said, that's my LB. I was like, are you serious? So you are listening to this podcast on the other side of the country, inspired by it. You reached out, we connected, we're frat brothers. More importantly, we're connected because you actually went to college here in Knoxville.
Absolutely. Wow. Small world, man. They say that and it's the truth, right?
It's real. I 100% agree with it.
I literally had no idea where you were exactly. I couldn't quite figure it out. Mm-hmm. But that's bad. I just wanted you to reach out and let you know what I was about to embark on. I was hoping for some, feedback and stuff. That was it. The rest fell into place.
Dude, again, it's a small world. So fellas, when you get that thing inside of you that sparks you to go and do something, to go reach out to somebody, do it. You never know that there's some connections there that have been building for years and you didn't even realize it.
Amen.
Take action. Take action. So before we get started, I always like to allow the brothers or encourage the brothers to give shout outs. You know, we're nothing without our village, without our support system. So before we get started, before we dive into who you are, your journey, and all of that good stuff, I'd like for you to take the floor or take the time to really give a shout out to those that helped Malcolm Martin be the brother that he is today.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's start with mother and father, of course, who have passed on but have left their legacy and imprint on my life, most definitely. A lot of positive uncles and cousins over the years, and I'm going old school, people that I sat up and watched and just learned a lot from. Of course, Omega's High Five, BE. I ain't going to say, yeah, you guys figure that out. BE, Knoxville College, all the bros, Physical Fit District, all over out here now in LA. You know, just a lot of positive people have been in, you know, just been a positive impact on me and where I'm going and what I'm trying to do. So shout out to all of them. Shout out to my daughter. Shout out to her mother, who's a wonderful woman. Though we're co-parenting, you know, she does her thing. She properly guides a child the way she's supposed to, regardless of our issues. She just does the right thing. So shout out to her. And, you know, that's it. My niece living out here now, helping us out. And she has her 5-year-old, 6-year-old daughter. So we kind of like building our own little village. We all get along well and, you know, a lot of love.
That's what's up, man. I love that. And we'll definitely jump into the concept of co-parenting because, like you mentioned, it's not you all's issue. It's about keeping the kid in the center of everything that you do. And so that, as long as you keep that North Star there, everything else tends to work its way out because that's what's most important.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. I love that. So now let's take it back, man. You were born and raised in Brooklyn, right?
Bed-Stuy, baby.
Bed-Stuy, baby. Talk to us about growing up in Brooklyn and, you know, I guess home life for you as you were, you know, coming of age and all of that. But then also, how did you end up at Knoxville College from Brooklyn, New York? Jump into your story, man.
Okay, well, first of all, I was in Brooklyn in the 80s, all through the 80s and 90s. So that was straight hood. That was straight. You ever watch the movie New Jack City? You get an idea. That was our daily life. Like, that was really no joke. I didn't know how the rest of the world was because I was strictly in Brooklyn. Bed-Stuy, and that's what I saw. That's what I dealt with. Now, my mother was the one we had a relative who was in the administration at Knoxville College. She was like, no, I'm going to get you out of Brooklyn because it's just dangerous. And this is how dumb I was in high school. I was good at football and I was graduating early. I wanted to purposely get left back so I can spend 6 more months with my friends in the street and play another year of football. Like, I was just dumb. It doesn't make any sense. She was like, no, you're going to Knoxville College. I didn't even heard Knoxville. I didn't even know what Tennessee was. So that was it. She had a relative. We had a relative who got me situated out there. We went out there and the rest was history from that point.
Interesting. And so you said you grew up in Brooklyn and this was New York in the 80s, right? And again, Brooklyn now is completely gentrified.
Oh, listen. I just left yesterday. I still own my home out there, though I'm selling it this week. It's like, it's a completely different world. It's different.
Really? It ain't the Bed-Stuy. It ain't New Jack City at all.
It ain't the hood. It ain't me looking out my window watching cats getting shot. It's none of that stuff anymore.
Wow. And so you went from that to Knoxville College. And, you know, while in Knoxville, you know, you became a member. You pledged Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. BE's in the building for sure. And but then after college, you moved back to New York. And you said you worked with the New York City Transit for about 10 years.
Yeah, but what happened right before that, I went to grad school at the University of Tennessee. And me and my other frat brother, Winston, shout out to Winston out there, he pledged me. We were actually accepted into University of Tennessee. And at the time, and there was another lady with us, Carmen. So there was a few of us, and it was the most blacks they had at the University of Tennessee grad school in that division. And it was only 3 of us.
Really?
Yeah, this is 1989. That was crazy. And it was 3 of us. So what happened in that year, that's when I started to experience, you know, racism. It's like I wasn't getting that type of attention I needed to further my studies. Like they didn't care. They could care less about what we were doing, what we were trying to learn. Wouldn't help us. We were basically on our own. So I became kind of fried and brain dead and reached out to people in New York where I used to intern, which is one of the best things a young kid could do is start out, intern, volunteer. I did all that. And I kept those connections. And when I was up against the wall and needed help to further my career, they brought me in, not as an intern, they brought me in as a manager of the New York City Transit Museum. So
that's interesting. Yeah. And so you said, you know, you came from Brooklyn, and again, this is old school Brooklyn where it was us, all us. But then you went to Knoxville College, which is an HBCU. So therefore, you always kind of had this environment in which you were not the minority. You always were basically in an environment in which you were basically, when you looked around, you saw yourself in a lot of the people, correct?
Exactly.
Until you got to UT, in which it was a total paradigm shift. And there, it was a scenario in which at least it seemed like you really weren't prepared for, based on the fact of being from the environment you came from.
Absolutely. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it. And I didn't realize, this is all hindsight. I didn't realize it was happening until way down the road, 10, 20 years down the road. Now I realized why I wasn't getting mentally stimulated in grad school, what the problem was, why I was being held back. I did all the work, got the good grades. They just weren't helping me. They just had no desire to help, not just myself, but the other two blacks in that program.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, as you talk about that, and, you know, we're at a time in history in which, you know, the relevancy of HBCUs comes into question on a regular basis, you know, and one of the things that you mentioned there, just that notion of community, that notion of that nurturing environment, that you cannot feel like the other, or you can feel like you're not an anomaly, in which you see yourself represented across all spectrums. It shows the true validation of why HBCUs still have, you know, relevancy even to this day, because those kids who don't have that particular environment, and maybe they come from a neighborhood in which they're used to having folks to kind of look like them and have a nurturing scenario. When they go to college, if you don't have that, and it's kind of a survival of the fittest, and you forget at 18 to 21 or 22, you know, your prefrontal cortex is not fully developed. So you're not ultimately all the way there yet. You still need nurturing. But, you know, it shows that. I mean, your story to me kind of highlights the value prop that HBCUs would still bring to this day for some of us that need that nurturing environment, even into early adulthood.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, man.
And so you go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I want to say that I'm about to play myself, so work with me because my computer's about to die.
Okay.
And I need to go plug it in real quick.
Oh, you good? You good? Look, dude, check this out. This is Black Fathers Now. We got fatherhood stuff. We got kids coming in, interviews. It's all good. Go plug your stuff up.
Let me go get my cord.
You good, brother? See, look, this is all good. This is real life. This is real life. I mean, sometimes a computer dies. What you got to do? You got to plug it up. It is what it is. And so, but again, to me, I think scenarios like that are important because sometimes we try to have things so, you know, perfect and so set up, but we don't realize that life is not perfect and set up. Sometimes you forget your cord, you got to plug it in. Go make it happen. You got juice. We ready to ride. We ready to ride. And so, so you went from Knoxville College, you know, and then you went to UT for a year. And after that year, you went back to New York, kind of, you know, utilizing some contacts that you had. And you started working with the transit. You said the New York Museum. The Transit Museum.
Yeah, it's New York City Transit Authority, but I was in the museum division. So I actually ran a museum.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So you did that for about 10 years?
10 years.
Really? And I also saw in your bio from there, you got sparked with this passion for fitness. And then you jumped from that into fitness. My question is, what was that spark? What was that thing that allowed you to just kind of go ham in the realm of fitness?
The thing that we tend to always go after as men,
women. Uh-oh.
Now listen, there was this girl. Now I ran the museum, so I had 4 or 5 different departments, and I was in control of the volunteer departments. I would always bring in volunteers, and they would come help, so on and so forth. But there was this one woman that was older than me, beautiful, sexy. I was just attracted to, but I was being professional. So I was trying to just be on her level, and she was into fitness, and she loved it a lot. And that was it. It was just that simple. I got into fitness based on this young lady. She was older than me, so she got it and I didn't. So I followed her as like a dog, as we do. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we ended up dating, of course. She left, but the fitness stayed. And so that passion stayed with me. And then on my own, I got injured exercising. I think I was doing squats or something, and I tore my rotator cuff. I don't know how it happened, but I tore a rotator cuff, and they did surgery, and I had therapy. And while I was watching a guy doing therapy with me for a month, and this is another black and white thing, unfortunately, because I was way out in this section. And the guys, again, they didn't care about me. And they was watching me do these exercises for my shoulder. And I knew enough to know this wasn't even the area that was hurting. And they didn't care. I was like, okay, I'm going to learn this to the fullest, get certified, and take care of myself and others along the way. So I didn't just go into basic training like personal training. I learned anatomy, kinesiology, everything, biology, just everything grouped up so I can take it to another level. So someone coming to my situation like I did when I got hurt and had bad therapy, I might be able to help them. And
that, it's interesting. It was sparked by a girl, but the true deep dive came through your own personal tragedy, so to speak, in regards to tearing your rotator cuff. And so you weren't served well. So you basically had to become ingenuitive and figure out a way to serve yourself well. But by serving yourself well, you found out a way to then ultimately serve others well.
Absolutely.
That is really deep. But again, it was sparked by a girl.
Yes. So is life in general. What can I tell you?
There it is. Look, they opened the window, but then there was something else that kept you there.
Yeah. Hey.
Keeping it real, dog. And so from that, you got certified as a personal trainer, and you started working at Chelsea Pier, which is one of the.
It's exclusive. They were built in '96. I think I started in '98, but it was like exclusive. It was very expensive. It wasn't your average person couldn't go there. So it was a lot of celebrities and very rich people that went there. So that kind of helped me in terms of connections and growing around people and meeting people in the industry.
So how did you then get directly there? Because I mean, that doesn't seem like a place where people can just automatically, I get certified, I'm good.
You can't, but that was my point. Like what I said, I didn't just learn to become a personal trainer. I studied anatomy, kinesiology, all that stuff. And I used to actually study right across the street from Chelsea Pier. That was my motivation. I would sit in my car and read my books on kinesiology and biology right in front of the piers because I knew someday I would work there. So when it was time to go there to interview, I knew I would ace it. I knew more than the people that was teaching me stuff was trying to tell me about exercise.
Wow. So you had a vision.
Oh, it was no question. When you have a passion, I tell people, man, let your passion fuel you. And I had it, and I followed it everywhere it told me to go.
That's amazing. So you had the visions of being at Chelsea Pier. That spot is where you wanted to train.
Absolutely.
Now I got a question. I know you're considered the celebrity trainer now. Was your goal initially to become a celebrity trainer? Like you wanted to be connected to that, or what was the?
No, my goal was, I was still at the museum. So my goal was I'm going to do my 10 years at the museum, get vested so I'll have a pension. So I made a 14-month plan. So at that 10-year mark, I would leave and do full-time personal training. I was doing part-time at Chelsea Piers, and I was doing it so well that I was making almost the same amount of money part-time that I was making at the museum. And at the time, I was making good money. So I said, it's time to leave in 14 months. And I had a long plan. And I said, in that plan, I just don't want to be a trainer. I want to do something like AIDS was really big then. I wanted to really help people exercise with AIDS. That was I wanted to move to Miami and work with the AIDS community because it was very big out there.
So that was the initial goal.
That was the initial goal.
Huh. Was that something, were you able to execute on that, or was there a pivot somewhere that kind of got you on the path that you're currently on now?
Oh, well, there was definitely a pivot because at one point I even was going to buy property in Miami around that time. I got my real estate license so I could learn about property, and I was trying to, and I almost bought a condo on 3rd and Washington. People that know Miami, it's called I forgot the name of it. Anyway, I backed out at the 11th hour. But it was all in effect. But what happened, I started realizing I can help so many other people as well, because half the people where I was in Chelsea Pier, that was a large gay community. So they all had AIDS. They all had those kind of problems. So I was able to help them there. I started dealing with a lot of pregnant women. So I started learning about training people in trimesters. With a lot of women didn't know that. They didn't know what things to do while they're pregnant. I was able to break it down through each trimester for them. So I just developed a love for everything. And then I just started meeting celebrities and people. And then, and that's how the whole John Legend thing came in, because at the Piers, I'm around Jay-Z. I mean, we have a whole boxing club, and it was, and Keith Doceris is like, he was the trainer of all the celebrities in terms of boxing. Jay-Z, Dame Dash, Q-Tip, Maxwell, everybody. So we all had this little boxing club. Heavy D became my best friend. We all had this little boxing club at Chelsea Pier. It was like 8 of us, and we would all sit there and we would do our little boxing. And I was the only one of the few trainers they would let around all the celebrities because people just mess with me. So then I started to like that lifestyle. People knew me for that. And then a couple of years later, a guy came up to me, my brother's friend, and he said, yo, I want you to train this guy. He's up and coming. His name is John Legend. And I was like, I said, I heard of him. That Ordinary People just came out. Literally just came out. I said, I heard of him. I worked with him. And that was it. He brought John to the gym one day. And that was it. First, I looked at him. I said, I don't want to train this dude. I didn't feel like it. I said, I don't want to train this dude. But within 20 minutes, I was like, yo, this dude is cool as hell. And that was it. Then it took off from there.
Wow. And so you literally were in the right place at the right time. But yes. I don't want people to omit the fact or miss the fact that you also made plans. You were very calculated in how you operated. So you mentioned that, you waited for 10 years until you were vested with the Transit Museum before you then planned to then make a 14-month plan to exit. Little things like people don't think about that in the sense that a lot of times when folks see someone who has achieved some level of success, they think there's some overnight success or, somebody just happened to see me, doing push-ups on the corner and they wanted to hire me. It wasn't some random serendipity. You got the skill, you have the talent, but you also had the vision. You put a plan together and you executed on that plan. And I don't want the brothers to miss out on that as well. Yes, right place at the right time. But, what is opportunity? I mean, you have to be at the right place at the right time, but you got to be prepared for it. Don't miss that.
Absolutely. 100%. I equate that to the Super Bowl when the Patriots came back and beat the Eagles. I said, yes, the Eagles gave it to them, but the Patriots still had to capitalize, and they did. Exactly.
That's it. They still had to capitalize, and you were there to capitalize on that. And the other thing that was interesting, you said someone introduced you to this up-and-coming, and I'm using air quotes here, this up-and-coming guy, John Legend. You didn't even want to train him at first. Initially, you're like,
because he's like this little chubby dude, and he sort of walked up all crazy out of the cab. And I'm in my boxing. I'm used to we all fit, ready to rock. And I was like, I got to start this dude from scratch. But that was my mindset at the time. But that quickly turned around within 20 minutes.
Wow, that's pretty dope. And so from that point forward, are you exclusively with him, or do you train other people? Like, how did that thing kind of blossom?
Over the years, well, what happened was I had him for 2 weeks at the Piers, and he was going out on tour with Kanye, Alicia Keys, and Usher on, I think, Usher's tour. I guess, I don't know, it's a Confessions tour, whatever. This is 2005. And I gave him a 2-week plan, and he left the Piers, and I went back to my daily routine, and he went away. And then I saw him in LA that summer, and his bodyguard came up to me and said, have you seen John? I said, no. So he looks great. And I saw him, he lost all this weight. And he came up to me and said, are you ready to go on the road with me and train me? I said, yeah, for this summer. It was 2005. I said, sure, for this summer. That was 2005, and here it is 15 years later. But along the way, I had other celebrities. Like I trained India.Arie. I trained Sam Smith. I trained Q-Tip this is before John. I mean, so there were other people. I trained Josh Stone. I trained, what's my girl's name? Why am I forgetting her? Cosette Michelle. I trained people along the way when I had time or when he escaped, and I was able to work it all in. But I've been pretty much with him for the past 15 years.
Wow. That's amazing. And it's, again, it's the notion of you were sparked or you had this inspiration. But then once you had the inspiration and you made it personal, meaning when you had the injury, that caused you to say, I'm going to think about this thing differently. But it's not just about scratching the surface. It's going very deep. And the way that you talk, I understand that you are a very methodical thinker in a sense that you're a guy who plans things out, you calculate, but then the thing that's different about you versus some others, you execute on the thing that you calculate. So you execute on your plan, which is really, really awesome. Fellas, pay attention to that. Plans are important. Inspiration's important, but you got to execute. And that's what my man Malcolm Martin is showing us. Execution is the key.
There's no question. Let me give you a quick example, because when I started with John, I was still getting paid like a regular trainer, hour, just not salary, just for that session. I would get paid, even on the road, I would get paid for that session. That didn't last long with me, because I was like, listen, one day I pulled him to the side and I said, listen, I have a lot of clients at home. If I'm going to do this with you and neglect them, I need to be getting paid, as if I still have them. So he said, okay, so we need to find a way to put you on salary. And that's one of the reasons I'm able to still be around, because I couldn't afford to just work with him for an hour and get paid for an hour. I needed to be on salary. So and that showed me commitment from him. And I showed commitment. And that was the bonding of us right there. And we just took care of each other from there on out.
Wow, that's amazing. And so I guess now, fast forward, so you travel the world, you do your thing, you're a celebrity trainer, but you're also now the father of a 5-year-old little girl who speaks 3 languages.
Yes.
Talk to us about your journey, your story, traveling the world and being connected to all these celebrities and rolling in all these different circles, but then tie it back to how all of this impacts you as the father to that 5-year-old little girl.
Well, you just touched on it. You said 3 languages, then you said traveling all around the world. And those 2, that's it right there. From traveling around, and we've been all over the world, around the world 30,000 times already, not just one place, like 1 million places. And I remember one particular time I was in Amsterdam having lunch with this young lady, and she was speaking Dutch. And then she spoke to the waitress in Russian. She spoke to me in English. And then I was just sitting there amazed at her talking. She was like, yeah, she said, and she did 7 languages. And she said, that's nothing for us. That's normal. She said, and that's the rap that Americans get. Like, we talk about y'all, about being a certain way, but y'all only speak 1 language. That's it. She was like, yeah, English is universal, but you need other languages. Like, we grow up speaking 7 languages. We can flip. She said, look around, look how diverse this place is. You need to have that. And I remember that conversation. That was 2006 at some cafe in Amsterdam. And I was like, you know what? When I have a child, she's going to speak a minimum, he or she, a minimum of 3 languages. And so I had Madison. Her mother's from Ecuador, so there's Spanish on that side, though her mother doesn't speak it as well. Her grandmother, that's Ecuadorian. Her mother was born here in LA, but the family's Ecuadorian. And so the grandmother speaks Spanish to her a lot, and sometimes her mother do. And I do. I know a little bit enough to like teach her basic stuff. And then I get a 3rd language, and we picked French because I already figured Spanish would be covered, English would be covered. I had French in school, but not enough. I didn't know anything. And I just wanted that language is spoken in 52 different countries. We can go anywhere and be as diverse as possible. And it works well here. And then we study the curriculum, the French curriculum, how they're taught here, which is important because they start from preschool and you stay all the way up to the 12th grade. There's no moving schools, none of this, none of that. Now she'll switch to a different campus, but she with her same classmates. I mean, I took her to school today, and she's 5 years old, and she's with her friends that she's known for like 3.5 years now. Like, that's comfortable. So that aspect of learning is out of it. That fear of meeting people, being distracted, being intimidated, that's over with. That's not a factor. So that's one of the main reasons we went with French.
So you removed the fear. You opened up that window, and you removed that fear.
Absolutely. And they don't know, like, at first they were saying, why would you put your daughter in French school? How are they going to learn? They're confused. They don't understand what the teacher is saying. And I'm saying, listen, at 2.5, 3 years old when she went in, I said, she barely understands what I'm saying. So it's all mumbo jumbo now. So she learned all these different languages together. And by preschool, she already knew her numbers, colors, greetings, like everything. Wow. So it's like, I love it. I like the idea of it too. And they're a lot smarter. Like, her mind is really, it goes in so many different directions because she's used to that.
And you stop and you think, I mean, English is spoken a lot of different places, but by her being fluent in Spanish and French, she literally can probably communicate with just about half of the population on the world comfortably right now. Without Google Translate, without any type of apps or whatever. Just about half of the world, she can step in and comfortably communicate with them in a casual conversation.
Absolutely.
At 5 years old.
Yeah. She knows. She won't because she's scared, but she'll know. She can tell if someone speaks English or French when they come up or when they say something. She often knows what they say. She won't speak to me in French because she knows I don't know it well. But when I come to her school, I watch her and her principal go back and forth with a whole French conversation. About the weekend, what did you do? What did you do with your father? Things like that. And she just goes, it's beautiful to watch.
Wow. That is fascinating. And I want you to pay attention to that, fellas. One of the things that I always like to bring full circle is how do the brothers take their life experiences, but then apply that to the role of being a father. And so Malcolm has traveled the world. He's been to all these countries, experienced all these people, all these different levels, socioeconomically, all of that. And one of the things that he brought back was the value of being able to communicate with people all over the world. Because I know, yes, we are in the United States of America right now, But people forget the United States only makes up 5% of the world's population. Wow. So therefore, that's 95% of the world's population lives outside of our borders. So yes, I understand this and understand that, but the reality is we need to be able to connect with folks. And what better way to connect than being able to comfortably speak multiple languages? And you're setting the stage for that with your daughter, who's 5 years old.
That's right.
That's powerful. And I think this is actually a pretty interesting lead in, because you've also recently embarked upon the world of podcasting, and you created this podcast called Black Fathers Go Further, right? So as it pertains to, you know, a 5-year-old speaking 3 languages, to me, that's the embodiment of a Black father going further, because you're going further with opening up the window to, you know, the possibilities of your daughter. Talk to us a little bit about the inspiration for you creating this podcast, some of the things you look to accomplish, and then what you'd like the brothers to gain from listening to you, you know, drop your jewels of wisdom.
Well, basically, the inspiration came from, and when you listen to the show, Black Fathers Go Further, you'll hear it in the intro. The first show is called The Intro, and I basically just talk about my inspiration. And it came from the unfortunate passing of Nipsey Hussle. And the connection was him and John was working on a song. And every morning, John would just come down and play me this song and say, yo, it's really nice. I was like, oh, this is a nice song. And then one day he came down and said, oh, man, the second verse Nipsey put on this is amazing. He said, you got it. He said, wait till you do the video. He's like, wait till you see the video, though. He said, we're shooting the video on Thursday, which was the next day. So I remember I went to his house Thursday, got him all ready. He went to shoot the video. And then he went out of town Friday. And I'm sitting on my patio Sunday. No, first he had told me how, yo, that guy, he said, I didn't know that guy before. He said, that's a really positive brother who's doing a lot of things, and I like him. And then that Sunday, I'm sitting on my patio. A quick thing comes through on my phone, shooting in Crenshaw, whatever, Nipsey Hussle was shot. And I immediately text John. And we felt it, because when they said he was shot 5 times, I was like, oh, man, this don't look good. But I said, I'm letting you know now your boy got shot. And he couldn't believe it. 20 minutes later, they found out he passed. And then that night and the next day, this outpouring of love. And then his story comes out, and you're reading about his story and the things that he's done as a Black man, as a Black father. And I'm like, how come we missed all this? This is amazing. Yo, this dude was phenomenal. And in my podcast, I said, this guy was everything without even being everything. Just think about that. He did everything for us. And that just inspired me. I said, this is the direction I want to go in. But then I was confused. And that's when I heard all these other podcasts and found yours and became super inspired as I'm going this way. I don't have to go that way, but that's the kind of direction. That's the kind of leadership I need. And that's how I started reaching out to you.
That's amazing, man. I appreciate you, man. Again, it's a small world, and you know, my whole and I'm gonna drop this out here for the brothers listening. You know, when Malcolm reached out to me, you know, sometimes people reach out and it's interesting because sometimes you get this hint that they're kind of asking for permission or basically letting you know that they're gonna do something as to not, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, step on toes. And I want to challenge brothers out there. If you're the type of person that gets, you know, offended by someone stepping in the space that you're currently in, or if you're a person that feels threatened, I want to ask you to take a step back and revisit that and rethink that, because the whole concept of a rising tide lifts all boats is true. As Black Fathers Go Further grows and he impacts millions of lives with his podcast and his platform, that helps Black Fathers Now. As Black Fathers Now grows and impacts millions of lives and changes families for generations to come, that helps Black Fathers Go Further, right? We're all in this thing together. Our ultimate goal is to help basically raise the notion of, you know, excellence in Black fatherhood is now the new standard. It's the new average. That's ultimately what we're looking to do, what we're looking to provide, what we're looking to inspire, or the action that we're looking to incite. So if you're the person that gets threatened by someone kind of coming into your space, take a step back and exhale and realize that if you're good, one, you ain't got nothing to worry about. But then two, go the extra mile to help that person, because as you all both succeed, that helps the whole generation to succeed, because there are brothers that are going to listen to Black Fathers Now that are going to hear my man Malcolm talk and be like, yo, I think I'd much rather hear Malcolm's voice. And guess what? That's good. on the flip side, there might be a few that listen to Black Fathers Go Further, and they're like, I'd rather hear this guy Mike Dorsey. And guess what? That's okay. We all have a different voice for a reason, because everybody is not the same. We're not this monolithic group that everybody listens to the same message. So therefore, we got to have different messages, different voices, different perspectives coming out there, because all of us bring value and all of us have the capacity to impact someone. So I say thank you for reaching out to me. And, I appreciate you, and dude, anything that we can do to help push Black Fathers Go Further to doggone blow the roof off this thing, that's what we're here to do. Because, dude, we're all in this thing together. A rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right. That's right. Well said.
I appreciate it. And so for the brothers that want to check out Black Fathers Go Further and connect with you, man, what's the best way to do so?
Well, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play. You know the deal. Email me at blackfathersgofurther@gmail.com.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's also my Instagram, Black Fathers Go Further, or you can find me at Marty Nice 4. Those are my tags for Instagram. And that's it, man. I'm on episode. I'm working my way up, baby. I'm not like you in the hundreds, but I'm on episode 12, I think. And, it's good. It's like a story. It starts the 1, goes up to 12. It's all a narrative. It leads into something. So just keep listening. And again, like you said, some of it, you might not agree with, some of you might. And it's for everybody, just to get an idea, just to give you a different voice, like Mike said, and just to, hear something different, whether you agree with it or not. A lot of it, most of it now is positive. So when I first did it, one of the things you talked to me about, which is really important, as into finding your audience and narrowing it into Black fathers, because I started making it about Black men, the plight of Black men, not realizing I need to narrow it down and really talk about the plight of Black fathers, even though they kind of tie into each other. So I've been working on that. It's going really well, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man, because, dude, you really are finding your niche, you're finding your voice, and you're making an impact, brother. And I literally am going to encourage you to continue going, to keep pushing, to keep evolving, to keep refining yourself. But then, take the governors off and just let that thing flow, man, because what's inside of you for real, needs to come out. And I heard a lady speak, her name is Marie Forleo. She was doing a talk, and she was getting interviewed. And one of the things that she mentioned was that if you have something that can help somebody else and you're not actively promoting it, you're only hurting those that need it the most.
That's right.
So therefore, it's not a choice, it's a responsibility. So all that stuff, all those experiences, all those things from a wisdom perspective that you have to offer, if you don't put it out there, you're only hurting that brother who needs to hear it the most. And so think of the lives that you change. Think of the relationships you may save. Think of the kids who may grow up in a better environment, maybe just from one piece of advice or one word that you dropped out there. All of that stuff is legit and real. And those are impacts that you might not ever hear about on a personal level, but just know that impact is happening.
Oh, yeah. That you're right about that, because the messages I've been getting, the feedback is blowing my mind. And these are people I don't even know. They're just finding me and telling me about how my show is right on point, and the message was loud and clear, and it really affected them personally. Like women say the same thing. Women loved my last show because it was called Back to School. And they just related to that so much, because the relief of sending your child back to school. But my message is more about not so much them going back to school. It was about the knowledge that we applied, that we gave to them during the summer to prepare them for the next year coming up. So they really appreciated that part of it. So, yeah.
Now, fellas and ladies, listen, y'all got to make sure to check out my man, Malcolm Martin. His podcast is Black Fathers Go Further. Black Fathers Go Further. So all your podcast listening apps, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, anywhere, make sure to subscribe, but then also make sure to reach out to him. Black Fathers Go Further on Instagram, Facebook. Connect with him and make sure you let him know that you heard about him on Black Fathers Now. Again, this is my frat brother. So all the bros out there listening, yeah, he the bros too. Y'all can get at him, holler at him, let him know, Rue. Let him know that you heard about him, but then also let him know that this was dope, man. You heard two bros talking about life, talking about fatherhood, but we're also approaching life from the perspective of putting our best foot forward with the hope of raising the narrative or raising the perspective of Black fatherhood. So y'all definitely reach out to my man, Malcolm Martin, Marty Nice, as you might find him as well on Instagram.
Marty Nice 4.
Marty Nice 4. So again, Black Fathers.
My line number.
No. He's a faux dog. Okay. I'm a deuce. Deuces are in the building. Deuces wild, baby. But definitely reach out to him and let him know that you heard about him on blackfathersnow.com. And again, support this brother, connect with him, reach out to him. I guess if you need some training tips, I mean, brother probably got them too. You just got life.
I got that on lock.
You got look at, but you probably got to pay for that one though. That one might not come.
Well, listen, that's my livelihood, but we can talk about that. I mean, there are ways around that. We can talk about that.
There it is.
I'm at the age now, man. This ain't no joke. It ain't about making a buck. If you're at my age and around there, we need to really take care of each other. I'm not just going to tell you. I'm not the trainer that just tells you generic stuff to do. Like, I really break it down. Like, I ask you tough questions so I can give you back tougher answers.
Say that again. I'll ask you tough questions so I can give you back tougher answers. You know what? Ain't no better way to end than that. I'm going to ask you tough questions so I can give you back tougher answers. Because guess what? The tougher answers are what's going to get you to where you're trying to go.
That's right.
Dig that. Well, fellas, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Black Fathers Now. Again, thank my man Malcolm Martin, my frat brother. Make sure to follow him, Black Fathers Go Further, on Instagram. Follow him, Marty Nice 4 on Instagram, but also subscribe to his podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe. Let him know that you heard about him on Black Fathers Now. And as always, make sure to subscribe to Black Fathers Now. Visit blackfathersnow.com. Follow Black Fathers Now on all the social media outlets. And make sure to leave some ratings, comments, and share. This is going to help somebody. And, until next time, fellas, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And we'll holler at you. Peace. Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.